Yeah, let's go into first impressions for me, and we'll grade the trade out of 10. For me, I'm just glad it's finally over. This is a trade 2 years in the making, and it's just a freaking relief to see that we can finally move on, move forward, and get a new NBA jersey on such a Charmin soft NBA player, man. It literally sucked knowing this guy represented Philadelphia, man. Absolutely good riddance. It's just a relief this bum can be someone else's problem moving forward. I grade this trade an absolute A plus. You just made a trade that legitimately opens the door for a Sixers championship. The Sixers went from literally running offenses through Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Furkan Korkmaz to James freaking Harden. By far, the Sixers' biggest issue on this roster was the lack of a playmaker, the lack of a ball handler. We got that. But you also can go beyond that. What was our other biggest issue? We now have a closer. We now have a bucket getter in the fourth quarter. It's been a down year for James Harden, but he's got a 13.3 net rating in clutch situations in 21 games this year. For reference purposes, Joel Embiid is 0.3, Tobias Harris is negative 7.8, Tyrese Maxey is negative 5.8, and the best Sixer in clutch time this year is Seth Curry, who is now in Brooklyn at plus 1.9. The Sixers got significantly better with this trade. I'm psyched. A plus. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, look, people in this, there are people that are just going to find things to complain about. I already see somebody down there saying the Nets won the trade. You have to take everything into consideration here. Ben Simmons was never going to play for this team again. So basically, if you look at it from that standpoint, for Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks that will not matter, you got James Harden. Like, I know that Ben's going to play for him. And guess what? Ben's in a good scenario for him because he doesn't need to score the ball, right? But he was never going to play here, and that's the biggest part of this. Like, listen, I love Seth Curry maybe more than any 76ers fan. Like, there's still a part of me that it, feels like I lost something because I waited so many years to get the guy here, and it only lasted a year and a half. But James Harden, a down year, because it is a down year for him, is 22 points a game. Like, we would have loved for Ben Simmons to give 22 points a game to this team. It wasn't going to happen. It was never going to happen here. And like the crying for Andre Drummond, like, listen, he's been a really nice story as the backup to Embiid. Come on, guys. it's Andre Drummond. Guess what? Now when we play Brooklyn, Joel Embiid can go back to doing what he's always done against Andre Drummond, and that's eat him up inside, because that's what's going to happen. It's an A-plus trade. It's a great trade. And now I think the only question is what happens in the buyout market to fill some of these little holes that still, you would like to see filled on the bench as we go forward.
What about you, Tiago?
Yeah, so I think Rob touched on the point that when you factor in the fact that Ben Simmons was likely not going to play here, I think that's the absolute best thing the Sixers could have landed on. And you got to give Moore a lot of credit for staying his ground. You heard rumors around, Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox, and those players do not move the needle in the way that James Harden does. I was a little bit concerned because when the rumors started coming around about a possible Harden trade, names like Maxey and Thibault started getting thrown on the table. And when you're talking about a trade in a 2-year window, these players make a difference on your team. So what to me was paramount that he kept those guys on the roster while making the trade around the Harden and Ben infrastructure. So overall, you got to give Moore a lot of credit for staying pat and kind of putting a deal around those pieces. I will say this, like Ben Simmons in Brooklyn could turn out to be a big problem because this guy fits this team tremendously well. He's going to play a role in that team that he did not play with the Sixers. He's not going to be asked to score. He's going to be asked to defend and play make. We've seen how Ben has defended James Harden in the past very, very well. So it's not a slam dunk that the Sixers won the trade, but it is a slam dunk that the Sixers made the right move to get a guy like James Harden, pair with Embiid, and kind of go from there. So overall, good job on both parts, I think.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot of very good points, Tiago, but I'm still giving it a A++ in my mind. I mean, this is what the Sixers have been waiting for, was just this caliber of player. And the James Harden was always the guy, especially in Morey's mind. This has always been what the holdout was for. And for everybody that was ready to ship Simmons off for Buddy Hield or whatever package of picks or everything, like, we got a legitimate superstar to pair with Joel Embiid for the first time in his career without touching any part of the long-term core. So I cannot be happier. And the whole identity of this team has changed. It obviously complicates things that it's a interconference rival, but I'm just, when you think about the Sixers as a whole, they got massively better today, and it's a great day.
Absolutely. Pedro's in the house saying, hey, we have a first timer. John is in the house. What's going on, John? Thanks for joining. Is Harden enough to get them a title? We will be talking about that in just a little bit. Hang tight. We've got a Nets fan in the chat, Tom, saying Nets won the trade. Ben, and another comment, Ben is going to cook the Sixers. Man, you know Ben is not going to play in the regular season against the Sixers. Yeah. What we need is a playoff series where he can't, hide his charming head in the sand.
Which you may not even get this year. Like, I feel like this was a trade the Nets made more so for next year, because you don't know what the situation is with Durant and this knee. And, like, I mean, he was bold-faced asked, what's your status? And he said, I don't know. Like, yeah, just flat out, I don't know. So, I mean, you don't know what they're going to be. I mean, they've lost, 9 straight. They're playing well tonight because they're playing a Washington team who's selling everybody. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. But calm down there, Tom.
RJ2K says the Sixers should partner with a mental health foundation and donate a portion of ticket sales for every single game Ben Simmons plays in Philly. I love that.
What does he mean by that? I'm interested to hear what his comments are on that. I mean, if we're going to go down that route, nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. We can talk basketball. We're not going to talk mental health in this podcast.
Yeah. Modog says they both won the trade. Was great for both. So high grades for the Sixers.